Welcome to the Encore today. We're continuing through, as I drop my pen, continuing through the series of John. But it is also our last Encore of the year. Can you believe? Another year.
Another year in an instant.
This
it's hard to
is
understand.
The craziest year ever, though, for anybody. That's just been the weirdest year.
It has been, but it still doesn't mean that it didn't go by in a blink. Once you get to this time of year, it's like,
Yeah.
what happened?
What happened?
At least I feel that.
Oh,
way. Someone might be like,
and the
this
older
is
the older you
longest year
get, the
ever,
more you feel like that.
It didn't feel like it was. People say this is the longest year ever. It doesn't feel like that to me at all. Actually, there are reasons I have it feels extra fast.
It's weird because there's always moments that, in the moment, they drag on. But when you look back and go, because if you say like COVID, when COVID hit, it almost seems like we've been in this thing our whole lives.
Whole life.
But at the same time, parts of it have flown by, and it's been since March. It's almost like having kids when you're like, I don't remember life before kids,
Right.
but their lives have flown by.
Right.
It's just, anyway.
A lot to say about
Yeah. So we got some fun stuff for the end of the year, I think.
Yes, we do,
some fun
yes,
questions.
We did earlier and started a little bit of a fight out there when we talked about Christmas movies.
Yeah, I know.
We were right. They were wrong.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, some people didn't like what we said. But on that same note, I don't know how it's taken us this long to do this. I have before me a top 10 list.
I love top 10 lists. It's like my favorite.
I'm not going to read them,
I know.
but I'm going to talk about Christmas songs.
Oh.
We've loved and hated some Christmas movies.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Okay.
Just for a few moments. What's the worst Christmas song you can think of? It's got to be like a real song, not one that no one's heard, some dumb one that somebody made, but like it's got to be like a staple that people that play it on the radio all the time. You're like, stop playing this song.
It's
There's a song I hate, man. I just had a physical reaction.
There's a few that I hate.
Like I can't even take it, but I don't know if it's gonna count. But you go.
You're gonna get mad at me because the one that is played is by Bruce Springsteen, and it's Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and it's the worst song I've ever heard. And Bruce doesn't help. Let me just say, your buddy,
he makes no mistakes.
Well, he sang that song, so mistake numero uno.
Let me try to pull it real quick. What is it? It's
Santa Claus is coming to town.
Clarence!
You better watch out.
I don't hate it at all.
Oh, wow.
I don't hate it at all. And and this isn't even me being dumb. Bruce Springsteen has yet to make a mistake. You hate that song?
I do hate that song.
I don't hate it at all.
That's the first one that came to mind. There's plenty.
I can see why you hate it. I don't hate it, but I'm not going to fight for it.
Okay. What's yours?
All right,
I think I have a guess, too. But I don't want to say it because, no, go ahead.
I don't know if this will count. But I just can't stand when Grandma got run over by a reindeer. Is that a song? Does that count?
It is definitely a song.
I mean, they play it on the radio.
They do.
Grandma got... I can't even say... I hate that song so much. It is so stupid. I feel dumber having just brought it up.
I can see why people would hate it, but as a kid, I thought it was funny, and so I just have memories.
But we're not talking about kids, Scott.
No. But
there are adults out there right now.
Yeah, sure.
Going, turning it up, and when I hear it in my truck, I want to swerve my truck off the road.
Yeah.
It brings fury to my bones. Like, this is so dumb. Why did someone think to do this? Okay, what were you going to guess? And I'll tell you if I like it.
Well, there's another one, and I'm got to be careful because I hope this is not offensive. I do not mean it to be offensive to our Hispanic community. I hate Feliz Navidad.
Oh, I was on this list. I don't hate it. It's offensive to our Hispanic community only because there's a Spanish word in it. Because it's not good. He hates Hispanic people.
Right. It's just so repetitive.
I don't hate it.
He's got like 3 words, and that's it.
Easy to sing.
Yeah, there's 3 words, and that's all. It's just repeated.
Okay, what's the best? You have one where you're like, or it doesn't have to be, you don't have to nail yourself to the wall on this, but you're like, dude, that is wonderful.
I of only like the classic Christmas knowledgeable songs. Yeah.
Yeah, real like staples.
Yeah, I feel like it's everybody's favorite. A Holy Night is a really good song. And then there's like
It's real good. Different category for me though. It's almost like a Christmas worship song.
okay,
So
I guess
I'm
so. I don't know what you're
I'm
asking.
looking for
then.
Christmas spirit songs.
Like nothing to do with Jesus about Santa and reindeer. Is that what you're going for?
Or I'll be home. Just nostalgic.
Basically, they'll play it on the radio.
The radio.
They're not going to drop.
They'll play a Holy
kinda.
Night, but you know what I mean. Like that one's so
Yeah.
real. Like I'm like, oh, I'm actually moved on an actual level. Where
Yeah.
some of them are just nostalgia for Christmas itself, the season itself. An example would be, I don't have one. Well, I love White Christmas. I'm dreaming of, I love, yeah, like, that doesn't have anything to do with anything, but I'm just like,
I
am dreaming of a white Christmas, and I just want hot chocolate and a blanket, and I want to love life. That one's one of my top.
Okay.
I like I'll Be Home for Christmas. You got any like that? Like it's only a Christmas song.
Well, I'm going to sound super Christian-y. I don't even mean that, but it would be like, I don't love the Rudolphs and the Santas and the Frosties type.
I mean,
So, like Hark the Herald Angels Sing. Is that?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like an old classic.
yeah,
and
sure.
it's sure whatever. You sound thrilled about that.
No, it counts. It's a Christmas song.
That's all I got.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
There's not a lot I don't like, honestly. Christmas songs. There really aren't. And
Okay.
I'm talking. What are we saying? What's the word? What's the word for something that's over and over?
Repetitive?
Yeah, like cliche.
Oh, cliche.
Cliche.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I like the cliche. Like, don't
Okay.
give me anything new. I don't want anything new. I don't want your take on something. I don't want, a new, like, there's nothing new. I want the old Bing Crosby Christmas vibe. Like,
Okay.
don't, like, you know what the number one top 100 Christmas song is? I just looked it up, by the way. The number one. All I Want for Christmas, Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey. That's a really good song.
Number one. I don't even like it.
It's a good song.
People are mad. I'm not arguing it's not a good song. It's because it's not from way back.
It's not a classic,
Because
yeah.
it's Mariah Carey doing it in the modern era.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is not a song. It's not in the catalog for me.
I guess I could see that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's like, I can listen to it on the radio and drive around and be like, oh, this is a Christmas song. Turning it off. Like, it doesn't count.
It did. Yeah. It's too recent,
This one
which is like 20 years old.
This
now.
went on too long.
Okay. It did.
I would love to hear. We read your comments, people.
Yeah.
So feel free.
Send in your favorites and your least favorite
Yeah.
songs.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
do you guys like Bruce Springsteen singing that
Mhm,
song or
mhm.
what? Jackson 5. Okay, I'm sorry. Jackson 5 does it, and it's just way better. I
What
don't
do
even
they
like
do?
that song. Jackson 5. Michael is a little kid.
Dude,
Santa Claus is coming to town.
Another time, we'll talk about how the Jackson 5 is one of the greatest things
Yeah.
that's ever assembled for all time. All time.
So maybe it's just Bruce doing it that bad, huh? All right.
Uh-oh.
John 11. Here we go. Him or us. So in the Gospels, we see a lot of, Jesus is doing ministry, and there is proclamation of the gospel, him qualifying himself as God. A lot of this through and through, and it often creates division, right? And it's people are making decisions, going one way or the other way, accepting or rejecting.
Yes.
So we see a lot of that through the passages in John. Today, I want to ask about Caiaphas's role in this. What is his role? First of all, and what is his motive? What is he trying to accomplish through this?
His role is the high priest for Israel, which is under Roman occupation.
Mm-hmm.
So he has power, but it is power under an occupied force. This is something we do not understand. But something, but it's very common. But something an American might understand is when we were under British rule, but we were the 13 colonies. Okay, it's not a one for one. I don't need people telling me how wrong I was, but it's a comparable understanding. There's a faraway power. There's some people that are present that are monitoring, but you are the 13 colonies, and you're kind of your own thing. That's what Rome was, the governing umbrella, and they're way more powerful, and they can invoke their force and do anything they want. But they let Israel go, and just be, as long as they don't cause Rome any problems. Again, to compare to the British occupation, once taxation without representation, the Boston Tea Party, Britain came by force. Like, okay, that's it. Here we come. And so Caiaphas is the high priest for Israel under Rome, who has great power. His motive is to hold his power. His concern is Jesus is going to have this great following, and the mothership, Rome, is going to see that as an insurrection that was allowed by Caiaphas, remove him, wipe out Israel, and make it a Roman colony.
Yeah.
So he's like, we got to stop this before Rome catches wind of this guy. We got to put this guy away somehow.
Okay, and so in here, he's saying, one of them, Caiaphas, who was the high priest, said to them, "You know nothing at all, nor do you understand that it is better for you that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish."
Yes.
What is he trying to accomplish by saying that in this in this passage here?
Okay, so it has a dual meaning, which is explained in the subsequent verses. He does not understand the dual meaning. That's what people need to understand when they read it.
Right.
He is not talking about that he has any real belief in Jesus or the salvation of the nation. That's not what he's talking about. His words fit exactly that description, and that God, it says, God inspired him to say that on purpose. What he means as a man is we need to kill this guy. So when he says, one man die for the people that the whole nation not perish, he's talking about an earthly thing. We need to kill this guy so Rome sees that we have control. Otherwise, they're going to come and wipe out the nation. So somebody's got to die for this problem, and it's going to be that guy. It's not going to be us. That's what he's saying. But he actually very accurately is making a bigger statement he does not even realize.
He doesn't even realize it. Yeah, and that's kind of why I asked it, because it's interesting that he says that. And so, yeah, that's kind of Caiaphas' thing going on there. And then you said within that often evil happens and that God can turn that into good.
Yes.
And so I don't know if you have an example of what that could look like today, but do you think that happens frequently today? And how does God use those things? Maybe an example that you could think of in life today.
Yeah. Well, I have an example here at this ministry.
Okay.
I'm not gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna use evil, but maybe on a bad circumstance on its face.
Okay.
The COVID, right, and executive orders, and the government, and health departments, and meeting assembly limitations, and all these problems. It's a real downer. Like on its face, and the reality of it is a real. You fight discouragement to live in it and to try to navigate it.
Right.
However, because of that happening, God has opened incredible doors, including coming this Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, back at Easter.
Yeah.
He has opened mega doors that we have never had open to preach the gospel to the masses who are listening more than they ever were before because of the problems affecting their life. And what I'm talking about is things like TV broadcasts, things on the internet, opportunities to serve, opportunities to feed people and care for people. We've been able to, a lot of people don't see all this all the time because we're not trying to brag about everything. But there are a lot of things that have happened because of the darkness of everything related to the COVID. So God can spin something on its head and use it for good, and he does. And he has, and he continues to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good example here personally for us. And it is hard because, like you said, we don't always get a front row seat to that. I mean, even in the examples that you're using, a lot of it, you personally, are behind a camera. And so in your mind, you're talking to 0 people or 10 million people, and you wouldn't know the difference. So,
dude, I'm not I'm sorry about it.
Yeah.
I'm not cutting you off. I'm just validating what you're saying. It is different.
Yeah, it's different.
Harder.
It's different, and it doesn't. Sometimes we feel like God's not working in this because we're not seeing always that one-on-one.
Now, I do want people to know we have people writing us, so we know the Lord is working. Somebody wrote me yesterday, like, I have come to know the Lord through watching these broadcasts during the quarantine.
And we've actually heard a lot of that too.
A lot.
Right.
It's been shocking, actually.
Yeah.
It's more frequent than in certain seasons what I've heard when we have been meeting in person and weren't paying attention to them. But I can't see people's faces. I can't feel the room. I can't have that even, from a stage on, or in a mass gathering. There's still a relationship that's happening, and that's lacking. I don't like that.
Yeah. And so I think, just kind of a reminder for us of our attitude in it too, where we can be like, oh man, like this is like everything we've worked for is gone. It's, it's not true. Like God can still use the ministry in different ways. He can still use everybody out there in different ways. It just might not be what you expected, and you might not always see the result too. So that was just kind of a reminder for me in that. So we talked about Caiaphas, but there's also the other people in there that are accepting or rejecting Jesus. And you said, we say often, like, what are we going to do with Jesus? What is the response that we have to do? And so I just want to ask, because when you say the word do or doing, it sounds like a task list, right? I have to accomplish these things, or I have to make sure these things are taken care of in order to make a decision for Jesus, which would maybe imply works salvation. So maybe just a little bit deeper of understanding what does that mean when we say, what are we going to do about Jesus, and what does a person need to do?
Yes, this is right. That's a good question you asked, because it isn't works. It is a response of your soul. That's you do. Everybody does something with him in their heart.
Right.
In the Bible, and in this story in particular, and many others, one that comes to mind is Acts 17, Mars Hill. Paul comes to preach in Athens, and they respond in really three different ways. I usually propose the gospel as a wide road and a narrow road, a right and a left turn, rock and sand, these things, sheep and goats, over and over. It's a sharp blade, you fall on either side. I believe that, but in the Bible you do see on this side of eternity, you often see three responses. You see people believe. You see people reject Caiaphas. But then there's the middle ground that you do see. People that shrug their shoulders and believe that they have not made it. They're in the indifference. And when we talk about a wide and narrow road and there's no indifference there, it's talking about the paths that lead to your eternal destination, heaven and hell.
Right.
That's the result. It is an either or. But in this life, a lot of people fall in that middle ground. Maybe the most people fall to indifference. And that's what happens here. Some, they go tattle to the Pharisees. They have not really made a decision, but they have. They've turned against Jesus, but they don't outright reject him. They go tell Caiaphas. Some believe him. Some go to the Pharisees. And Caiaphas decides to kill him. So what I'm talking about, what do you do? How has your heart reacted to the reality of Jesus? Have you repented and believed? Have you shrugged it off and thought you're going to delay it to another day? Or have you outright rejected him in your heart, hardened and said no? Like that's...
Yeah. And so what is the end result of those three people? Let's just say today, whatever, you call it a diehard radical Christian, just to be extreme, an atheist, God-hating atheist, or a shoulder shrugger who's just like, honestly, I don't know. I don't feel like dealing with it. I'm just going to kind of turn a blind eye or whatever. What is the end result of those three people?
So the people that are sold out to Jesus are on the narrow road that leads to life. And the Bible says, few there be that find it. I don't think we realize that or even want to admit it. I would say the parable of the seed in the soils.
Yeah.
Only one, it seems.
One of the
People
four,
debate one or the other, but
yeah,
it seems to be only one bears fruit with perseverance. Only one fell on good soil. The other three were no good. So 25% of that parable were real. I would, with significant scriptural backing, say the lowest response to Jesus are real believers.
Yeah.
That's the lowest category. People that actually know him as Lord and believe on him. That's the lowest one. All the Old Testament foreshadowing of salvation. Noah's Ark. Only 8 souls were on the ark.
Yeah.
Everybody else was outside.
Yeah.
Lot going to Sodom. It's just him and his daughters. They leave. They're the only ones. His wife goes back. His son-in-law's left. Nobody goes. All these things. So it's the lowest one are believers. Everybody else, the indifferent, does not believe necessarily he's a rejecter. The indifferents are the ones that Jesus talked about that say, eat, drink, and be merry.
Yeah.
It says, what's the Bible say? Just as in the days of Noah, so it will be when the coming of the Son of Man. And it says they were eating, they were drinking, they were buying, they were selling, they were planting, they were building. Days of Noah, days of Lot. Those people haven't said, I hate God and I have heard and been convicted and I harden and reject. They have not said that. They have just said, we'll think about it later. I like my life. And I would say that may be the largest amount of people.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
And then there's another amount that may be smaller than that one but on the same side that has said, no, I heard it, I understood it, and I rejected him in his face, and I hate him. But the indifferent and the rejecter are the same person. One is just admitting it. I actually respect the one who admits it more, who says, no, I understand and I reject it. At least you knew.
It's almost like a be hot or cold. Like
hot or cold.
One,
like at least you denied him and you knew who he was. You know? The other ones are like, like, you won't even consider it. Like I've witnessed to people, I've preached to people like this, where like, really? You're just going to live this shallow life?
Yeah.
And we're not going to talk about when your heart stops beating, because it totally will. Like, some people don't even want,
just don't want to deal with it. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for clarifying some of that. All right. So at the end, I'm gonna hopefully not anger a bunch of English teachers out here today, but there's something that's terribly confusing with the English language.
Okay.
This made me think about it when you brought it up. Say the word. I'm gonna have to spell it so I don't cheat. HOMAGE.
Dude.
Did you know this was coming?
I knew you would. I knew you would hear me say it and not like it. You're talking about Psalm 2. I thought of you. I do
have a real question in here eventually, but
I thought of you. So here's how I say it, and then I'm going to explain it.
Okay.
And then I know that you're going to say what you're going to say. You're talking. It's funny you brought that up. I knew you would hear me say it. In Psalm 2:12, the Bible says, "Do homage to the Son, that he not become angry." You're going to say, I think, that the proper pronunciation is homage. Pay homage to the Son. I think you're probably right. I'm going to hear it. You've probably researched it more than me. I said homage because everybody says it that way. So I feel like everyone understands it to be that. So it's almost more distracting to give it the proper pronunciation. For example, in Michigan, I pronounce the state of Oregon, Oregon. But if you say that to an Oregonian, they will think you're an idiot. They say, no, you pronounce it like the instrument with keys in the church, Oregon. Where do you live? Portland, Oregon. And if I said, oh, you live in Portland, Oregon, which I have said that to people that lived in Oregon, and they're like, stop saying that. It's not how you say it. I think it is how you say it. But in Michigan, they say it. So I'm not going to say it right, because everyone's going, why are you saying Oregon? So it's like that. But what do you have to say, Scott?
All I have to say is I actually don't know. I'm hoping that some English major could help me understand what's what. Okay, so H is the weirdest letter.
Right. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it isn't.
First of all, there are people, you probably don't know, there's a lot. People pronounce it H. Have you ever heard it called H, the letter H?
Not ever until this day.
I think it's English and Australian.
Where have you ever heard this?
H? Not in the United States. Australia, I think.
H?
H.
Like Anne Heche?
Sort of. H-I-J. If you think about it, it should be called H, because it's actually using the H. I don't know. I have heard people say H. Anywho, there are so many words. Okay, our president uses the word huge.
That's because he's from New York.
That's just strictly New York? Is that where you're going with this?
Northeast.
Huge. Human beings.
You realize that's not unique to him, though. That is a Northeast thing. You've heard this before?
Well, so I was researching it because of this. I didn't realize it was a Northeast thing, but I thought it was just
It's definitely a New York thing.
Okay.
So I'll give you, I do not listen to this person. I've just listened to interviews that he's highly inappropriate, but he's a compelling human being. Howard Stern.
Yeah.
He is from New York. He was raised in Roosevelt Island, New York, I think.
Yeah.
And he says, now it's not as pronounced as Donald Trump, right? But he says it. Human
beings, right?
Yeah, human.
Yeah.
Human. Huge. Yeah, like
Huge.
He says it, and he's born and bred New York. Now I don't know if it goes beyond that, but I feel like New York might just be an epicenter of a Northeast thing.
It's possible.
Now let me ask you this: have you ever heard people in Pennsylvania say the word water?
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 Water? Yeah.
It's almost worder, and I'm like,
water.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's accents and things like that.
There are these things, right?
But it seems like H. homage is one of the weirdest ones that I have heard it both ways.
What would a New Yorker say homage is? Homage?
Homage, I don't
Pay
know.
homage to the sun. It's huge.
Herb. How do you say that?
Herb.
Herb. But if it's a person's name, it's Herb.
But if it's an herbivore.
So all I'm saying is, I'm not
H
telling.
is weird, man.
I'm not telling if you're right or wrong. I honestly want like an English teacher to tell me this is when you're supposed to pronounce it, and this is when you're not.
Yeah, like
H-I-J-K.
Yeah, what's the rule? What's the I before E? Which also is not a rule.
It doesn't even.
It's
make
not
sense.
a rule.
English language, weirdest thing ever. The question is, that was fun. What does it mean to pay homage to Jesus? What does that mean when you ask people to do that?
Submit to the Lord.
Yeah.
Submit to the gospel. Repent of your sin and believe on Him as Lord. And it's very clear. It is a very clear declaration of the gospel all the way in Psalm 2. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
Do homage to the Son that He not become angry and you perish in the way. That's John 3:16 of the Old Testament.
Yeah.
God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. That whosoever believes in Him, you pay homage by believing. Who believes in Him will not perish. That's exactly it. That you will stand under judgment if you do not show regard for Jesus.
Yep. All right. Yeah, I just want to clarify at the end, but I had to ask. If you're an English major or teacher out there, I would love to know if there's a real answer for that, and if somebody could tell me where H comes from.
What a mess.
Who says that? All right. End of the year. We are going to be off until January. You guys will see us again in January. So I'm going to ask you, not about this sermon. Is there one sermon for you that stuck out more than ever that you were like, this was my favorite one to preach? Maybe it was based on, you preached a lot to a camera, and by that I mean only a camera this year.
Okay.
Is there anything that you think this is the one
It's going to cause a problem.
Oh, I think I know what you're going to say.
I know it. It was the sermon of the year for me. It was the sermon of my life. I've never had more response either way. And it was definitely
both positive and negative. Yeah.
Than To God and Country back in May. And I was glad to preach it.
Yeah.
And I'd almost like to preach it again. In a different I still feel like people you're still not getting it. Like I want to say it again. And I told Aaron the other day, I said I still think people are not hearing where I stand and why. And I don't want them confused. I think they think that I'm on their team with some things. I am not. And I don't think the Bible is either. And I wanted to be so clear about that.
Yeah.
And I still think people don't, you're still not hearing it.
Wow.
Because you wouldn't be saying the things you're saying to me, or you wouldn't assume. Some people wouldn't be at the church if they knew. Like if you heard what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I was glad to preach that because I felt like I was cleaning my soul of some things. I just wanted to come out on these things. And I'm still there, even stronger.
What would compel you to, what would have to happen for you to be like, I got to preach this again in 21?
People to disrespect and dishonor Vice President-elect or President-elect Joe Biden and say that he is not their president and that Donald Trump was duly elected. If people start doing that, I'm going to come off the rails from the pulpit and come hell or high water. I'm going to say all the words. He is the President of the United States, and I will pay him respect.
Okay.
And Donald Trump is not. He will not be. But I will not disrespect him because he was the president.
Right. Okay, just sum that up as we close here in, you don't have to know all the verses, the biblical concept of where that comes from.
Romans 13. There is no authority except established by God. Man has not disrupted the plan of God. Man has not torpedoed the plan of God. God has installed Joe Biden as the President of the United States. He has a purpose behind it, and we are to show honor and respect to it. We call him Mr. President, stand when he walks into a room, and pay our taxes, pay honor in every way.
So by doing so, is that paying homage to our Lord?
It is.
Yeah. I think
Without
it is.
question,
Yes.
it is. And it bears fruit for your testimony, and it keeps you out of the wrath of God. To stand against his installed authority is to stand against God himself. And it is a dangerous place to be. And I'm starting to see a lot of people doing it, and it's really bugging me.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean anything about my personal politics. Mine and your politics mean nothing. It means nothing.
That's where it's hard for people to separate.
Yeah, they cannot separate that.
That's a
It
good way to
means
say
nothing. I am a citizen of heaven.
Yep.
This world means nothing. I have to represent heaven, and God has told me how to do that to the governing authorities. And if you don't do it that way, you are in sin against the Lord, and he will come for you.
Right. All right, good stuff. So that is our final encore of the year, 2020, the craziest year of our lives. I'm sure 2021 will be maybe just as crazy. But we want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. We have some awesome Christmas things coming up that we hope you'll be a part of. We get to see a lot of you serve in different capacities. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and don't take our word for it being his. We'll see you next year on the Encore.